my bra I'm saying. So, you know, we're going to get down to it now, right, Kelly? So, Kellie Mills, tell me a little bit about you and what you're involved in. We're talking about you're a trainer,
Yes.
and I asked you what area of expertise you're training.
Yep, I'm in business with my husband Gary, and we're Mills Eaton Training, and we've been in business for 21 years, and we do training in leadership, team development. I get called the team whisperer because I work with teams that are badly broken and hate each other's guts. And I get called in to fix them. I do work in communication, conversations, getting people to...
What's been your most interesting job that you've been assigned to?
I think the most powerful work I've done and humbling work I've done is working in Lightning Ridge, Bourke, Brewarrina and Walgett with staff that work, Aboriginal staff that work in the non-government organisations to support women and children and families. And that was amazing work, doing getting the NGOs to work together and connect with each other and see how they can support the people in their communities with their services, and also teaching leadership training. And
that's massive, isn't it? Leadership training.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people think that they can do it, but when it comes down to it and they've actually had that, they bring you in to do it, they can see the difference after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the response is quite fantastic.
It was humbling after the first day when a bunch of them called me sister at the end of the day.
Oh, wow. Well,
it was so humbling. And they accepted Gary as well. And so, yeah, we've over the 21 years between us, we've worked in 107 towns and cities in Australia. And we've just come back from working in Canada as well.
So you've done like a stint in Canada for how long?
We did just over 2 weeks this time in June, May, June, and then we were there back in November, December, and did a couple of weeks over there.
So it must be gratifying to do that sort of work too, to see the difference once you've been
and
spoken to people
cool.
and
it's really cool, and it's nice to have an idea when you're first sort of working together and a bit of a picture of what you'd like to do, and we're so far beyond what we planned we would ever do.
That's
really
wonderful,
cool.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
So what's been like your most memorable feedback from someone?
One guy told me I changed his life, and we've become really good friends, and he worked in mining, and he came into the training, he was a supervisor. He came in cynical, not in a very good place, and somewhere through the program I switched a light on for him. And he did this, he gives me so much credit for it, but it was him that did the work. You know, he went out and he taught himself to use computers more. He started to look at his own behaviour, how he dealt with people, and had a plan for what he wanted to be. And he's just an outstanding individual and someone I'm really proud to call friend now. But yeah, when he said, and he had told me couple of years down the track, he had told me he was close to doing something really stupid.
Really?
He was in such a bad place.
So sometimes it just takes that one little thing that, you know, is that one, it might be that one little sparkle, you know, out there that kind of gives you that get up and go to make a difference and to make changes in your own life.
Yeah, he did the work. He was amazing, and then became an inspiration to others. And so many people I spoke to who worked for him were also inspired by him as a leader. Everyone wanted to work for him.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes you feel great too.
It
it's success.
Yeah, it fits one of my core values. I'm very values driven, and we teach values, and one of my core values is making a difference. And it's a personal value, but it's also a professional value. It's what we do in the work we do.
So we're going to talk about, like, we've got this poster behind us, and unfortunately I don't think you can see the actual bottom bit of it, but it says 100 Alice stories, creating an avenue for domestic and family violence survivors to tell their story, which is pretty amazing, and that's what drew me towards today or this evening and interviewing you. And so it's a culmination of 100 stories of
That's the aim, yeah.
people coming together that are talking about DVs. Are they only females?
This one we're focusing on Alice's, and look, when we first launched it, I had a number of guys contact me. Some were pretty agitated, but the majority were going to go, well, you know, why are you only worrying about women? Why don't you care about men? And I said, I do care about men, and if, well, once we get this off the ground, if there's the interest, I'll do 100 Alex stories. Unless, of course, you would like to start it yourself.
Yeah, that's a great concept too, isn't it?
Yeah,
because it happens to men as well.
Absolutely.
But I mean, you've just focused on the female side of things.
I've focused on the females. There were a number of drivers that led me to that, and I focused on the females. I kind of got tired of hearing that another woman had died, and no one seemed to pay too much attention to it.
So how long has it taken you to get to the stage right now? So you're at 66?
65, 66, yeah. And I can tell you how it all started. 2015, not long after I started working with these amazing, predominantly Aboriginal women in Lightning Ridge and what have you, I had one magical training day there. And they started to talk about their stories. And they were talking about, you know, what happens in community and the challenges, and then one woman shared her story, and then another woman shared her story, and it sort of started, and it was in that abuse space and violence. Next thing I know, and I'm just sitting around having a yarn with these women in this training session, next thing I know, I started to talk about my childhood. And then I had this tiny moment thinking, oh, it's not very professional, Cal, you know, but it just felt really comfortable. And in that environment, I became one of them, and we connected. And I sort of reflected on the power of sharing the stories. Then driving back, that long drive, on numerous occasions, I would say to Gary, I've got to do something. Don't know what it is, but I've got to do something. And he would just calmly look at me and go, it'll come to you, because he knows I'm passionate about something.
Yeah.
And then on Anzac Day, 2015, we were at the kitchen bench. Gary just called a taxi. We were going out in Beaumont Street for dinner with some friends. And while I was waiting, as you do, you're on Facebook, and this thing popped up, and I clicked on it. You know, a friend had shared it, and I clicked on it. And it was a recording of a 911 call that a 6-year-old had made because Daddy was beating Mummy.
Oh, no.
And I became frozen at the kitchen bench. Gary's calling the cab, and I was listening to this thing, and it took me back to the fear I had when I was a 6-year-old girl.
So that was my next question, because you have actually lived it yourself.
Yeah.
Domestic violence.
Yeah,
with a child. Yeah, as a child.
Yeah, violent alcoholic.
Oh dear.
Biological father and controlling, very controlling stepfather. And I remember I ended up, looking back now, it was a full panic attack. We left, Gary said, oh, the cab should be here, and we walked up the driveway, and I started shaking, and I got into the cab, and I shook, and I couldn't quite explain, it hit me. And 2 days later, that was a Saturday night, 2 days later on the Monday, we were driving back out west to do some work, and we stopped at Dunedoo. Pardon the pun, but we stop at the Dunedoo for a loo stop.
So who named a town Dunedoo?
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it.
So we stopped there for a loo stop, and also it's good signal. You can get signal, and I was checking messages and emails, and there was this message from a friend of mine that lives up the coast, and I hadn't been in touch with her for years. We were friends on Facebook, Anyway, she sent me this message and she said, I had to contact you because I've just heard about this young girl who's 14 who has contacted, is writing to the Department of Education and to the Minister and trying to stir up government excuse me, to get better education in schools around domestic violence.
She was 14?
She was 14. Her mother had committed suicide as a result of the abuse she'd lived with. And this young girl felt that if she had understood that what she was living with wasn't normal, she might have been able to help her mum. And her name's Josie, and she actually had things put into the curriculum.
I do remember that.
Yes,
I do. Now that you've said Josie, I do remember, yes.
And so between working with the women in Lightning Ridge, then there was my panic attack moment with the 911 call. Then there was that message from Kim, and Kim said, and I heard about this, and I don't know why I had to call you, but I just had to let you know. Message you, I just had to let you know. And I put it down, we drove away, and all I could hear in my head, and this is where I might sound like I'm a bit wacky, but all I could hear in my head was 100 stories, time to rise up.
Wow.
And it was just in my head, 100 stories, time to rise up. And Gary started to talk to me, and I said, just give me a minute. I'm thinking about something, and I just need to clarify it. And then I saw exactly what I wanted to do. So what I want to do is I want to have a book, and I want to collect 100 stories. Don't know why it was 100. I want to collect 100 stories of women who have escaped and survived domestic violence. Some of it was childhood abuse. Some of it was adults. But I want to hear, how are you doing now? Because I thought if this book was in doctor surgeries, and I picture it as a beautiful book, and I can see the cover, and it's going to have beautiful photos and images of beautiful things and inspirational quotes, but in between all of that beautiful stuff, it's going to be these very real stories. And it's also going to be information on recognising the cycle of violence, recognising what's happening in situations, who to contact, what your options are, so people feel. And I just thought, if I could save one woman's life, if one woman, I just had this clear picture of this woman sitting, looking at this book in the safety of the doctor's surgery waiting room, or hairdressing someone's.
It might prompt someone to do something too, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not all about where it has to be a physical thing. I mean, that's something that you and I spoke about, and how important it was to get the message across to people. It doesn't have to be a total physical situation. There can be other ways that, like domineering factors that is also domestic violence. So I guess for someone to have stories that people can identify their own story with, and know that, wow, I am actually living through domestic violence.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought I had to be bleeding, and to quote someone, Shireen Smith, bleeding from the inside, which is a beautiful song that she's written.
Yes, yes.
So it is, it's all about, you don't have to be absolutely totally bleeding on the outside. You can be bleeding on the inside, and you can be abused all different ways, like even the fact of controlling finances and things like that. There's so many, there's a gamut of things that can be
massive amount, and we've got all of those in the book. We've even got a same-sex relationship. This lady wrote to me and she said, I don't want people to really think it's just men that do it. I'm a lesbian. And he was my story, and he was what happened to me, and the abuse was in that relationship. And so I wanted people, there's a few things I wanted out of it. One was to hopefully encourage someone to leave.
Yes.
Or find the courage, or just to realise they're not alone and they don't deserve it, and it's not just them.
And to get help.
So
in this book there'll be references to places to go and get assistance.
Yeah, where to look, and that there is help out there for you. There'll also be I also want the book to keep the story going about women. Keep it vocal.
Keep it alive.
Yeah, Rosie Batty did such an amazing job. I heard her speak last week in Sydney. She did such an amazing job. We don't want it to die down. I remember the week that the Bali 9 people were going to be executed. That's all we heard, and that's all we saw on television. And they were drug dealers. And it's all we heard. That same week, 2 women were murdered by their ex-partners. One, there was a small mention on the ABC. It was a woman from a well-to-do area in Victoria, and there was a small mention of her. There was no mention of an 18-year-old girl who was beaten to death on a front lawn by an ex-boyfriend in Bologna. And so it kind of makes my blood boil. We're up to 31 women who've been murdered this year.
Wow.
27 weeks, 31 women.
Oh, get that, everyone? 27 weeks, 31 women.
If there were 31 footballers murdered, politicians, there was one football coach whose son killed him, and we heard about it for weeks.
Yes.
And I'm not minimising that. That was horrific. But women are being killed all the time. But the other thing that I hope would happen is that it would help empower the women telling their stories.
Absolutely.
And that has been huge.
And perhaps too, there might be a situation, well, I would imagine there'd be a situation where this is the first time they've spoken of it.
Absolutely.
And maybe that is very empowering for those women to actually tell their story and to be proud of who they are. And, so I'm saying to you, you've got a Facebook page.
Yes.
100 Alice Stories.
100 Alice Stories Project is the Facebook
on
page.
Facebook.
Yep.
And your website is
100 Alice Stories, 100 the number, 100alicestories.com.au.
Okay, so if anyone's interested in being a part of the book and they want to tell the story, what is the actual process?
The process is, because people have to do it in their own time and in their own way, and the actual writing is cathartic for most of them. So the process is they go to the website, there's information on there about what we're about, there's a page, if you go to Submit Story page, there's information on there on how to check in with yourself to see if you are ready, what to look out for your own well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, going through the process. Then they write their story. They send the story to us, hit submit. When I say us, there's only myself and Gary. We're the only people who read it.
And that's important, I think, too, because if someone's going to that extent where they're actually now pouring out...
And they're saying who they are because they've got their email address, right? We're the only ones who see it.
So it'll never be made public, that situation,
No.
Which is important to a lot of people.
Absolutely. The safety, look, we've had legal advice. We've talked to Gary's daughter is a social worker and counsellor with victims of crime in South Australia, and she's done a lot of work with people in the TV space. So we got guidance. We've got guidance from the professionals. We're not the professionals in this area. So their safety is our number one priority. So once we get the story, we edit the story. We do have 2 other people who assist us with editing. We had an influx of stories, but they don't know the names of the people. They don't get the stories until we've allocated them an Alice number.
Okay.
And Alice came from Gary. He just said, why don't you give them all the same name to keep them anonymous?
And that's what I was going to say, how did you get Alice? Was that because of the song or
well, that's
living next door to Alice?
That's exactly where I went to with it. But Gary said, look, why don't you call them all something, Alice 1, it doesn't have to be Alice. And I thought, that song, Living Next Door to Alice, a lot of us are living next door to Alice and we don't know.
Yes.
Or we're living next door to Alice and we do know, but we don't know what to do about it. So it kind of thought, no, I'm happy with Alice.
Yes.
And so they all get called Alice and they all have an Alice number. And so we edit the story. What I mean by editing is we don't take any of the real stuff out of it. This is what happened to me. We don't take that out. but we will take out names and places. We will take out anything that's going to identify them, because they have to be kept anonymous. So we might put them in a different state, or we might change how many kids they've got. We will tweak it to keep them safe. Then we send the story back to our Alice to have the final say, because they have to have control.
Absolutely.
So they have full control over whether that's what they want to go to air. And it'll go live on the website. Once they send it back to us, and we don't do anything until we get their approval back. Excuse me. Once it comes back to us, we then put it on the website. And when we get our 100, we'll get the book happening.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I want to interview you when you get to that stage too, because it'll be a little catch up, and we can actually be, because I'm a tactile person, so I'll want to hold it and touch it and look at it. Yeah. So I'll share it with my viewers too when that happens. So we're up to, are you up to number 66? Is that what you're up to
65.
right now? 65.
65 we're up to now. And it's been a really powerful process. I remember I spoke at an event down at Warners Bay, and a lady came up to me and she said, Kellie, I'm Alice number so-and-so.
Wow.
And she said, and my daughter, and the daughter was standing there, and she said, my daughters don't know. And the daughter went, what are you talking about? And then she shared it with her. So it was incredibly powerful. And she was proud to come up and go, I'm Alice number so-and-so.
Wow. So I mean, for, my viewers out there, you may know of someone, or, maybe you've got someone that's come and confided in you in a situation that you might say to them, like, power to you. And this might be a way that they can actually take that power back, and do something about it to make themselves feel great about, themselves, and just build up that, take the power back, I guess, and this might be a perfect opportunity for someone to be a part of the book. And, no matter what, Lifeline is out there. If anyone wants to speak to anyone, like, just ring Lifeline. Or if you know of anyone that's going through such a horrific situation like that, ask them to ring Lifeline. They have counsellors and that you can speak to. There are organisations in your state and town that you can look up and find. So Lifeline will give you those, that information. But, it is a perfect way, I feel, to release.
It's wonderful as a release. Alice number 80 happens to be an 80-year-old woman who said that she finally felt she could close that chapter on her life, having told her story. Another woman I know in her late 50s, another one of the Alices, said she shared a story for the very first time in her life, and she feels like 40-odd years of shame has been lifted.
Wow.
So that's really powerful. I also am aware, anecdotally, of 2 women who sought help to leave abusive relationships after reading the stories.
And that's wonderful.
And they're just the ones I know about.
That's right. I mean, you don't know the impact that it has on people's lives, I mean, you're hearing a little bit of feedback, but I'm sure, and I mean, gosh, God bless all of you, for having the courage to do something about it. And like you say, the woman that has held that secret for 40 years and, the other woman that come with her daughters and her daughters knew, like, good on you for having the power.
They're so courageous, and I think this is another thing I want to do, Kellie, is that I don't want these women to be seen as victims. I want them to be seen as courageous and heroes. When Mick Fanning, I remember when he got bitten, nearly got bitten by the shark, and that guy saved him, and there was this big hooey. That's great, and yes, that was heroic and brave, but these women in these domestic violence situations, they're keeping themselves and their kids alive every day.
That's right.
Under horrendous situations that most people don't even want to think about. And so they're the real heroes as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's right. And I mean, they're survivors and they're thrivers.
Yeah, exactly.
So that they need to be re-tagged thrivers. And God bless all of you to having the courage and the get up and go to do something about it and make a difference in your life and the lives of your children and your families and siblings and husbands and fathers and brothers, and, you know, God bless you for doing something about it. So, you know, it's not something that should be just swept under the carpet, but I totally understand when people or women don't know what to do. So they feel like they're trapped.
No, I feel like trapped, feel like they deserve it.
Yeah.
They're convinced that they deserve it.
Go and talk to someone.
Yeah.
You know, like talk to a girlfriend, a neighbour, or someone that you admire and look up to, and just go and get it off your chest even, you know, because it's an amazing release and it's an amazing feeling once you release all that garbage. You know, no one has to live through that, no one. And like I said before, it's not about you have to be bleeding or bruises or whatever. There's so much more to DV.
Exactly.
You know, that we now recognise today that there are so many different aspects of domestic violence. So, you know, whatever you do, go and do something about it. Talk to someone just to make yourself feel a little bit better. And in your own time, you know, you'll work out what you want to do about it and what works best for you. No one is telling you what to do because no one is you. You know, no matter what, you know you. You know what you're capable of. And, you know, take the opportunity to get some sort of assistance somewhere. You know, the smallest thing can help. And, yeah, I mean, it's a very powerful conversation, isn't it? Really, like
the really important point I'd also like to just quickly make is if someone comes to you, a friend or family member comes to you and says, "This is what I'm living with," the worst thing you can do, even though it's well-intentioned, is say, "We just need to get out. You need to leave." That's not what they need, because they're already being controlled and told what to do. They need to hear, "I'm here for you. Let's have a code word. If you ever need me, you call or text me this code word and I'll know you're in trouble."
that is a great idea.
Yeah, and I read that from a survivor, because we have the bit, "Well, I wouldn't put up with that. You need to get out of there."
Which is what, I mean, it's not like you say that
Oh,
for
you're not trying
any
to be
reason.
mean.
That's
No,
right,
no.
because it's just a natural progression of that conversation.
Yeah.
You just feel that is the answer, because really sometimes we ourselves do not know what to do.
No,
we do
feel
not know what
helpless.
to say. And so we're trying to comfort.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's with heart that we say things like that, but
Yeah.
obviously it's not the right thing at the
No,
time.
you need to say, "What do you need from me? I'm here for you and I will listen to you and I won't judge you."
Yeah.
And that's hard.
It is hard. It's hard for a lot of people, I guess, too, for to see their loved ones or people that they care about in that situation. You know, because usually that's the shock of the whole thing, isn't it? That they're in shock themselves, even though they've just been told or they found out some way.
Yeah.
They've got to
need to
deal
be
with
believed.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kelly, at the end of my interviews, what I normally ask is for the participant to look down the camera and share, you know, a message of hope. So I believe that you've got a part of an Alice story that you'd like to read to the viewers.
And this isn't gruesome, and this is part of the message of hope. So I'll look down the camera, but I'll also read.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is from Alice number 73, who had regularly been beaten with a baseball bat, had been given to 4 of her partner's friends as to pay his drug debt. And here's where she's at. She said, "I'm learning there are places to go for help and that the view in society is changing. Women can now seek help, can talk about domestic violence, and are now empowered to leave their violent partners. You have a voice, so don't believe you are weak or stupid or ugly or dumb or any other bad thing that your partner has forced you to believe about yourself. The reality is, you as a person are important in this world to someone. You are a mother, sister, aunt, niece, grandmother or friend to someone. You're a valued member of society and no one wants to see you dead. It proves nothing and it is a waste for you to lose your life because one selfish partner thinks they own you. You are not personal property. You're a human being with rights, feelings, and you belong in this world. Believe in yourself. It is a hard road to travel, a lot of heartache and hard work, but you deserve to own your own life and live how you choose, and to live free from violence. Ask for help. Accept help. Don't deny yourself the right to improve your situation, and believe in yourself.
Wow.
I get chills every time I
That's just
look
beautiful,
at that.
isn't it?
It's powerful.
Well, for someone to be in that particular situation and to be able
Come
to sit
through it and be able to
So she's
share
a
that
thriver
message.
now.
She's absolutely a thriver and a hero.
Wow, she's a hero in my book too.
Yeah.
And I mean, they all are.
Yeah.
The whole 100 and 100 million more or whatever there are out there that, you know, have survived and thrived, and good on you. Like, it's just a wonderful thing that you're doing what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, it's just heartbreaking every week. I mean, I go through so many amazing stories, and, you know, to actually how people live through what they've lived through, and they come through on the other side being so positive and amazing people. And, you know, I pay homage to all of you out there because you're just really courageous people. And thank you for being you, and thank you for getting through. So each and every week I have amazing people support me and what I do, and I'd like to thank some of them. So Michelle Millington, Dave JVR, Mick Galvin, Jeanette Dempsey, Lisa Dixon, Tani Roberts, Shireen Lowe, Teresa Crossland. Hi Teresa, up in, where is she, Darwin? Hi Teresa. Pauline Petra. Thank you, Pauline, and hopefully Pauline will be on to tell her story very shortly. So I'm not forgetting that little phone call, Pauline. Gary Bentley. Hi Gary Bentley. Thank you for tuning in. Louise Birkins, Debbie O'Donoghue. Thank you. Each and every week you're around and listening to the show, and thank you so much for your support. Sharon Sharp. Thank you, Sharon. Finally got the old crocodile or the dinosaur computer up and running so you can watch the show. Thank you, Sharon. Heidi Alexander Pollard, you've actually been...
Heidi.
Yeah, you've actually been on the show too.
Hi, Jeanette.
And Sheila Peckham. So you've been on the show as well. Karina Dendel, thank you so much. And Larry Lowe, thank you so much. Suzanne Young, thank you. And Andrea Martin, thank you so much. I hope those beautiful boys of yours are just going so well. So again, Suzanne Young and Marie Edwards, thank you so much, Marie. And thank you every single one of you for supporting me each and every week. And know that in life, you know, like, no matter what, I don't want any of you to give up. You know, I there's no such thing as giving up in my world. Like, okay, we'll take a big dive and we can pick ourselves up, and with the help of beautiful people, and just surround yourself with beautiful, loving, warm people that are willing to give you that little step up and helping hand. And know that no matter what in life, you're going to be okay. So I'll see you all next week, and thank you so much for being a part of my world. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.